MacVoices is sponsored by MintMobile. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Welcome back to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, for a long time, we couldn't get Glenn Fleishman on the program, and now all of a sudden I've got him twice in just a few weeks. I love it. Glenn, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. All it takes is a global pandemic, and I'll be back anytime, apparently. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry, world. I want Glenn on the show. You're in trouble.
Oh, no.
Well, this time we're going to take about another Take Control book, a new Take Control book of yours, but this one has a twist. This is Take Control of Working from Home Temporarily, and this is a free Take Control book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is what happens when you think you're funny on Twitter. Is where this book came from. Is I posted a tweet when offices started to shut down. They're starting to recommend. It was this is still a couple weeks ago, and people are starting to. Companies are starting to recommend. Some companies like Microsoft and Amazon were actually, which are two giant local employers, they employ, I don't know, I think 150,000 people in the greater Seattle area. And they said, look, if you can work from home, now's the time. It's fine. And then this is even before more people were basically told you have to, and shelter in place went into effect. And I said, hey, people who are new to working at home, you should find a freelancer buddy, and they can teach you about things like locking your refrigerator with a time lock, not spending all day on Twitter and blah, blah, blah. And people responded to it. And as I read the responses, like, oh, this is a real thing. Like there's suddenly easily tens of millions of people just in the English-speaking world who could read this book or speak English, who are suddenly kind of thrown at home, who aren't like you and I. You have a home office setup. You have your own business you run from home. I've been working out of the house for many years now. And I thought, wow, I guess I could do something in the face of feeling helpless and not knowing what to do, that I could actually write something that would help people who have never done this before on a regular basis. They don't have a space set aside. Their kids are usually at school if they have kids, or if they have partner, roommates, extended family. When they're trying to work, they're not usually around. But now everybody's home in most places, and they're trying to get work done. This is a critical time to try to keep an income going in and all that. So I was like, all right, this is it. And I talked to Joe Kissel, of Take Control Books, and said, I want to write a free book. Do you want me to write this? And he said, yep, let's do it. And that was it. Like, let's get something out for people.
Well, I think it's great. I've of course, I have this here, but I also have a day job. And just today, as we record this, is our last day in the office for 2 weeks. We're now moving home. I have worked at my day job from home before with another company, and it does take a certain amount of discipline. And, there are little tricks that you learn along the way. It's not just, okay, set your laptop up in the corner and go to town. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and this is coupled, of course, with the fact that in most places, if not yet soon, and at least for some number of weeks, if not longer, depending on how it all pans out. I mean, I hope historians don't look back at this video as being optimistic, but I don't think so. I think we're going to get a handle on this. It's a matter of time. But usually you can go out of your house. So you work from home. You're like, well, I'm going to go to Starbucks, get out of the house, take a walk around the block. I'm going to meet so-and-so for lunch. Today I'm going to go in the office, but the other 4 days in the week I'm going to work from home. And this is that, and with schools closing almost everywhere, all the major cities in the country, just about at this point, you have a set of circumstances that I don't think outside of let's say summer, right? Sometimes people who work from home regularly in summer, they will encounter that confluence of everyone's home. Things are too busy to go outside. You try to go to a Starbucks and it's crammed with people, so you don't go. But you could, take a walk outside. You can still take a walk outside. We're not being told in most municipalities to stay entirely indoors. We're being told not to mingle in the places that are doing shelter from home. You don't have to lock your doors and pull your curtains. So that, I think, it's both normal working from home is tricky enough, and setting yourself up with a plan is hard enough. Then how to keep yourself, keep your mental health in order. And with all these new people around you, or not new people, but all the people that are new around you while you're working, your family, you've got a house full of family. My kids are home for at least the next 5 weeks, possibly longer. And many people have college students who they sent off and maybe coming home because they can't get a job at the moment, and classes have been canceled except for, in some cases, online learning for the rest of the year. So we're all in this new situation, even if we thought we were prepared. And it's like, well, I can always set up on the dining room table and then I'll clear it off when the kids come home. Now it's like, oh my goodness, I need a place where I can go in 5 days a week and make this work because, again, trying to keep normality, trying to keep money coming in for yourself or for your family, and trying to help the country, the world keep going.
So where do we start? I mean, you said you have to have a plan, and I agree with that. But where do you start with the plan?
Mm-hmm.
I know I have my opinions, but you're the author of the book, so I want to make sure that you take priority.
Supposedly an expert. Well, I've had my own situation for about a decade in my house, and I consulted. Gosh, I think there's over 24 people who contributed to the book in different ways. Some people sent me a tip. Other people, like Tanya Engst, the co-founder of Tidbits and Take Control Books, she sent me a draft of a chapter, and I was like, oh, I didn't even have this chapter in there. Thank you, Tanya. So I keep saying it's hundreds of years worth of work at home expertise from people who've spent 20 or 30 years working at home. And then I'm kind of the newcomer with under a decade in my current stint. And what we kind of all came down to is how do you define a space for yourself to work? And it's both, I have some practical advice about like setting up a space. And of course, I know everyone is not in the luxurious situation of having a convenient spare room that's not in use. Oh, I'll just use my spare room with the grand piano and the extra chandelier I keep in storage. A lot of people are being asked to work from home who may have purposely set themselves up with a relatively small apartment, or it's all they can afford, or they have roommates. It's what circumstances are, or it's what's been working for them because they're mostly or entirely leaving the house. So everyone I spoke to all struck this note of you need to be able to define a space that's your work. And for some people, they're going to have to set that up in the morning and tear it down because there are other people around and there's not enough space. If you have a room or you can repurpose a room, even if it's I hate to say, try to keep your bedroom if you have another room besides it, or even a space in a room that's shared. But you want a place where you can set aside the most kind of mental space, almost even as physical space. And Rosemary Orchard, is another Take Control author who's an expert on home automation tools. She said that even doing something like, let's say you have a bookshelf on a wall in a larger room, you could move the bookshelf into the middle of the room, make sure you tie it down, or do something to make sure if there's an earthquake, doesn't fall over, or a cat jumps on it, all that. But then you could create a room space in a room you have. You could hang a curtain from some hooks temporarily while this is going on to kind of give yourself a psychological space that's also a physical space. By doing that, then you say, this is my workplace. And when I walk into it, I'm at work. And I walk out of it, I'm not at work. And what many people said, and us experienced work from homers think, is if you don't create a separation, then you're always at work. There's no separation. Suddenly, some people will go from a 3-hour-a-day commute to a no-hour-a-day commute, which is great. You get 3 hours back. You can spend more time with your family, whatever. But they might feel compelled, or just by accident, to fill that with work. And you have to set aside psychological boundaries, physical boundaries, time boundaries. Create a place where if you live with other people who are going to be home, that they know this is where you're working, they know what times you're working, they know when you're at work, and create that space for yourself that you know when you're at work and when you're not. And people will have extraordinary things demanded from them during this time when we have no idea what's going to happen with the economy. Amazon's hiring 100,000 people, and 1 million restaurant workers may lose their jobs, and they couldn't work from home either. But they may be thrust into positions where they're suddenly doing customer service from home. I mean, it's all this tumult. You may change your job from a full-time retail job to a full-time home remote job. And we just have to be sure that our sanity is a top priority, and family life, if you have people around you, family or roommate life. I know people who live 7 to a home in Oakland, California, for instance. All of them go into offices. They work different shifts right now. Some of them drive Uber, Lyft. Some work, swing shift. They program late into the night. We're all going to have to work that out, and we should all be kind to each other, but we should also demand a little space for ourselves because we are working.
I think you've really hit a lot of it on the head. I mean, that was one of the biggest challenges when I moved home for my office job, that it's always there. There's always something else to do, and you know it. And so you can find yourself working all the time and even liking it. at least,
Yes.
for a while,
Totally. Yes.
that's the weird part. And then when you have to dial back, or there are other things that you want to do, A, you either feel guilty, or B, you've got people pressuring you saying, well, gee, you were able to do all that before. Why are you slacking now?
Yeah, right. Those are the two extremes, right? Is that in some cases, I mean, I've seen people who feel totally disabled right now because it's so overwhelming. So they have not only worry about their kids, parents, coworkers, everybody, the rest of the world, depending how much your empathy dial is set and how much you cannot think about the rest of the world. Some people are worried about 7 billion people. Some people can ratchet that down to 1 or 2, which is a little easier, let me tell you. So you've got that, right? You've got uncertainty. You've got having to work from home. And then you have this, I can only get about an hour done today. I could hardly focus. I could barely do my work. And everyone's counting on me, or my job. I'm going to lose my job if I can't do it. The flip side is some people are going to experience tremendous productivity if they can get into a zone. Maybe they didn't like going to an office. Maybe they have a terrible commute, and suddenly they've got this unbroken stretch, and they're like, "This is amazing. I wish I could have worked from home before." And they may work every waking minute, forget to eat lunch, and those are kind of two extremes. But I think some people might experience that from day to day or week to week because they'll lose the socialization. They may find that missing. Hopefully they can find other ways to make up for that. But there is something, I mean, a lot of us who work from home, and some people who are remote workers. So, I'm a freelancer, but there's a lot of people with full-time jobs who have the choice to work in an office and have in the past chosen to work one or all days at home if they could, or they're a remote worker for a company that's virtual. I looked at a job last year that was, most people were in a couple offices, but they had people scattered around the country. So if I'd gotten that job, I would have been a rare person working full-time from home. So those of us in those positions, we have kind of made these choices because we think we're more productive, or it's what the job required is to work, or we could have gotten a co-working space. There are other things. But right now we're all the same person. We're all required to fit into this same mold, and we have to figure out what's going to work for us. And again, I keep going back to that kindness is any boss or company that treats you badly right now, it's a sign that as soon as the economy changes, you should change your job if you can, because this is the time when people show their stripes, and it's going to be hard for everybody. And I saw my friend, this is a guy who goes by Darth. I don't know who he really is or she really is on Twitter, @DARTH, like Darth Vader. He said he was on a conference call. He was posting this publicly. He was on a conference call, and it was just like pets in the background and children screaming and whatever. And he said, and it was great. This is what we're doing right now is everyone has their children home in big parts of the country. Not everyone has a spare room or soundproofing. We're all going to be doing that. So in that space, we have to create times that we're working, times that we're being very professional, and also the expectation that we may wind up working weird hours. May we wind up working a 16-hour day and then not work for 2 days. We might ask our employer if we could work 3. I have a friend who's a nurse, and her stint was, it was 6 days out of 14, 13-hour day shifts, because fewer transitions in healthcare they found with nursing actually increases patient survival rates and quality of service. So they're like, okay, that's what so I'm like, do you want to work 6 out of 14 where your boss let you work 3 13-hour days in a row or 3 13-hour days a week? So all these things are on the table at the same time as everyone tries to cope, especially if you're managing, childcare duties. And maybe a boss would say, 313s is great because I understand you and your partner, like they're working 3 days a week and you've got this schedule. Let's make it work. And how do we do it? And other bosses are going to be, I need you checking in by computer at 8:30 a.m. and checking out at 5:30 p.m. And I don't want to hear any kids. Again, those will be the ones we run away from after this is all over.
Yeah. Yeah. I had not heard Rosemary's trick of hanging the blanket, but I did know, I knew a gentleman who set up his office, his desk and his workspace in his closet. And so the theory was that you got up in the morning, opened the doors to the closet, and went to work. And then, at quitting time, closed the doors up, and he's home.
Got everybody to cut air holes. That's the critical part.
Yeah, but and I thought at first it was a little weird, but he made the point that I all my stuff stays right where it should be, undisturbed, just like if I were at the office. Nobody bothers my desk overnight, and he's not facing a window, which for him was distracting. If you're claustrophobic, it might be an issue. But, that's it. You got to find the tricks that work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even, I'm sure, especially right now, there's probably office supply stores where you don't have to interact with a lot of people in places where retail stores are still open. You could probably go and grab a cubicle thing pretty cheaply, stick up a couple cubicle pieces that are freestanding around you, or get a screen. I mean, you could order a screen through the mail. That's one of those folding screens. Doesn't have to be beautiful. Just has to, you can put a piece of fabric over it, repurpose things you have, but anything you can do. I mean, I think particularly when I say 7 people in a house in Oakland and who knows how many bedrooms between them and so forth, like I think those people are going to have the same demands placed on them. How can you do the most to, when you're elbow to elbow with all those folks, make it work for everyone? And again, that's why I keep thinking about defining a space. And it could be that there's a table that everyone uses and you're going to say, I'm going to put a piece of blue painter's tape down the table, and my office is here, and I'm going to set stuff up, and people need to not disturb it because I would need to come in the morning and just set up here and not reset every day because I need something predictable that I can work at.
If you're still using one of the big wireless providers this year, have you asked yourself what you're paying for? Between expensive retail stores, inflated prices, and hidden fees, you're being taken advantage of because they know you'll pay. Enter Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile provides the same premium network coverage you're used to, but at a fraction of the cost because everything is online. Mint Mobile saves you on retail locations and overhead, then passes those savings on to you. Do you use a little data or a lot each month? Mint Mobile lets you pick from 3, 8, or 12 gigabytes of 4G LTE data. Plus, you can use Mint Mobile with your existing phone. And you get nationwide talk and text included. All the good stuff that the big carriers offer with none of the not so good stuff, by which I mean the big bills. We are all adjusting to a new normal, including working from home. If you are, cutting your phone bill is a very good thing. If you have a newer iPhone, you might even be able to add a second line. Move the big carrier SIM that your office provides to the eSIM and get a Mint Mobile SIM for your personal line. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/MacVoices. That's mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Mint Mobile for their support of MacVoices. So one thing I know that is really important, and I found that out because I thought I was immune to it, and that is the ergonomics of your workspace.
Yeah.
Because you're spending time, and now you may not be spending it in that nice office chair and sitting at a desk, and with the monitors at just the right height or monitor just at the right height. Might be working from a laptop and all these things, and that too is something you better pay attention to because if we are in this situation for an extended period of time, it's going to start telling on you.
Absolutely. It's often little things that can make a difference. Like the current advice is, I can't do it with my arms. So 90 degree angle is when you're typing, your arms should be close to your body, not extended too far forward, and at a 90-degree angle at the elbow. That's considered kind of the current best advice. Doesn't work for everybody, but somewhere in that range is kind of the ergonomic thing. And if you can't set yourself up like that, if you can't get your keyboard, here's the great example I think is the laptop. The laptop is great for casual use in some cases. In some cases, it's your full-time machine. Many people who work routinely from home or have an office setup they go between, they have an external monitor or multiple monitors and a keyboard, and they're all set up. So their laptop is kind of a thing they use on the go, ad hoc, and they kind of plug it in. Well, if you haven't had an office set up at home, you might not have an external monitor, and maybe you should get one. And they're very cheap. Like, this is the thing. I don't want people at an uncertain time to say, go spend tons of money, go out and waste your, but maybe your company is going to give you a little budget. Like, you have to work from home. Some people's companies will say, we're going to give you $200. You can spend it however you want. It's not a lot. Or you may say, for my safety, the ergonomics of it, I'm going to do something. But an external monitor and an external keyboard is a great investment. You can get a great monitor these days for $100. You can get a great 1080p monitor. 4K monitors are like $250. So you can really upgrade your setup by not working on this laptop space where you're kind of like this, and maybe you're at an angle and you're hurting your neck and you're whatever. And maybe and it always works, if you're on an airplane, you can type, you're at a coffee shop, but if you're suddenly going to spend 8 hours or more in a particular place, then getting the keyboard height right, getting a keyboard that's more comfortable to type on for that much time, and putting it so you have the right distance. One of the folks who gave me a tip for the book, who's a photographer, he said, maybe it's time to see an optometrist. Now I know, having said that, retail places, a lot of places are now shut, so it's not exactly the right time in most places. But if there's a place you can safely go to make an optometrist appointment, you might be able to do this, or you might be able to talk to an optometrist over the phone who has your records and could order a set of glasses or give you the numbers to order online, because not everyone has laptop glasses. And this is the tricky part. Like, it's very hard. You actually have to go and get your eyes looked at in order typically to get the right distance and all the factors. But if you have an old prescription, you haven't renewed, you're lost a set of glasses. I'm farsighted, and I really do need I have this decision to make. I actually have 2 sets of glasses, and I've typically reverted to one. So I have a basically screen distance set of glasses. I don't need them for distance. And I have a reading set that's a bit closer. So I have like I don't know what it is, like a 12-inch set and a 24-inch set, right? And I found it's much more easy for me to not maintain 2 sets and switch them around than to just hold my book a little further away. So I optimized towards reading on a screen. If there's a point in time when you find that you are having eye strain and things reopen enough, where medical appointments like optometry, which is often can fall into that category, and you might be able to get a new set of glasses, that can help there too. It's part of ergonomics to have to not get eye strain, but it may be something you deal with in the short term because of the exigencies of the current situation, as you might say.
And sort of along with that is something that, and I find myself doing this more and more at the office because we don't have headsets for our phones. So I will use the AirPods that I've got, and I'll just use my cell phone for outgoing calls. And it makes a huge difference because, you're not trying to do this and type, and, pretty soon you look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I'm free. I can, if the doorbell rings or if I need to go get something, I just keep on going. So I've found that the Apple AirPods are terrific, but I know some people prefer the AirPods Pro with the noise cancellation. Some people like the over ears, but I think that to me is like an essential piece of gear.
I absolutely agree. I think if you're going to spend any more than casual time on the phone, you need some kind of audio setup. I mean, I'm on a mic and headset or headphones for better use. I've got my Jabra headset that I use for normal phone calls. I don't like earbuds very much. I have to try the new AirPods Pro. I haven't tried those. I won't be trying those for a while, but those were in-store fitting. It's great. But those were, no, I guess Apple will send me all of them. I could actually buy a set, I know, with the tips, and you send them back or something like that too. I shouldn't be funny. But yeah, there's a combination. Like, you're going to want noise canceling headphones or earbuds if you're working anywhere there's noise, or your refrigerator might hum and you never noticed it because you're not sitting a room away. I say that, and the freezer near me just started to hum because I work in a basement. Like, it doesn't know the words, so it's humming. So it's an old vaudeville joke. But so you want noise cancellation because you're going to suddenly notice noises you never noticed before. Some people can cope with that. Others are noise sensitive, like I am, and being able to drown out the noise is great by just having this silence or pumping music through it. And that goes hands in hand with a headset for comfort, a headset or a mic and headphones, earbuds. There's even, I just got a thing from Jabra that I haven't tested, but Chris Pepper, he was a long time as an IT guy who's very well informed of this stuff. He recommended it's a $130 unit from Jabra, USB based, and it lets you do very high quality speakerphone. So maybe you don't even want, and that doesn't work everywhere. If you got people around you, it's not going to work. But maybe you want totally hands-free. You don't want anything on you. This thing does noise cancellation. It's got a great speaker built in. Maybe you use that even as an option, which I would never have thought of. He uses it in a group, typically at work, but the quality is high enough. You could stick the thing in front of you and have nothing if that bothers you or you want to just not be in that environment. So you've got a lot of choices. And if you're lucky, you could do something like the AirPods Pro where they act both as noise canceling and as your, audio input. Rosemary Orchard, again, great tip. She reminded people, I stuck this in the book, if you use any kind of wireless earbuds or other headset. Well, the headset trick is tricky. With earbuds, it's easy. You take one out and you charge it while the other one you're using, because you might wind up using it for much longer periods of time. And I know that Apple's doing it in particular. You can charge one at a time and use the other solo because phone calls are all mono typically, and most VoIP is voice over IP is mono as well.
Yeah. God, there's so many things here I want to make sure we get to, but you were talking about the multiple displays, and I want to remind everybody that you potentially have a second display already, and that could be your iPad.
Yeah, this is great. I haven't started playing around with this, of course, because I'm not running Catalina yet on my main computer, and I have 2 monitors on it. On my laptop, I'm running Catalina, but it's awkward in terms of an iPad, but that you can use, I've forgotten the feature already. What do they call
Sidecar.
Sidecar, what a name. It's actually a great name. So Sidecar is built in. If you're a Mac, if you're listening to the show, I'm assuming you're more of a Mac user than a Windows user, an Android user. So you can use Sidecar with, as long as you're running all the latest versions of things. You can also use there's a Luna and what's the other one? There's a second package. I have to remember the name of it. Duet, yeah, and those are available on a variety of platforms and let you could use an Android tablet with a Mac, a Windows machine, and an iPhone. I mean, it's kind of hilarious. And they go back more system versions also. So you don't need everything to be, say, Catalina or iOS and iPadOS 13. But that's great. Yeah, it's always the if you don't have the money, don't have the setup, don't want to do it, you still can use an iPad if you have one as a secondary display and get the benefit, so you can see some stuff on it, put palettes on it, put notifications on it, anything that gives you a little more focus on your main screen. There's been a fair amount of studies. They're not all conclusive of the same thing, but many of them point to 2 monitors allow you to be somewhat more efficient because you're not constantly context changing in the same space. You're able to keep one set of context in front of you and use a secondary monitor for other information or in some combination, or see a lot more data at once. Otherwise, you'd be like, it's like holding 2 books up and trying to flip through them. I am constantly doing stuff splayed across a 5K iMac and a 4K monitor. And I think, how did I ever do it before this? And I had, I don't know, like 30% of the screen pixels and so much less area not that long ago. You just adapt to it too, like a goldfish. You just fill the screen space available.
Yeah. It was always my contention that we were never going to go paperless until our monitors became the size of our desks. Yeah. And we've almost gotten to that point, and now it is easier to go paperless. Because you're right, I'll have 3 or 4 browser windows open. Mm-hmm. I might be, editing something in one while referring to the other 2. It's more like a paper experience, but with the benefits of a screen. Mm-hmm. So, how about standing desks? I don't want to miss that on the ergonomic discussion.
I'm standing right now. That's why you can see me shifting from foot to foot for ergonomic benefit. Yeah, it's. I even have a treadmill desk. I haven't used the treadmill part as much lately. I got to get back into that since I'm going to be cooped up a little more. And this is it's not a tread desk. It's a treadmill that was designed to fit under a desk and a standing desk. A lot of people love standing desks. Lex Friedman is the one who convinced me to go tread desk, or treadmill plus desk, I should say. And I have not looked back. I love standing all day. Some people want a good chair. They want to sit. They have enough other activity, or their body doesn't support them standing all day. It gives them plantar fasciitis, or they have that. It's bad on their feet. There's desks that are easy to move up and down. I have a motorized one that I got because I thought I would adjust it all the time. Haven't adjusted it for like 8 years. I got it to the right position. Because I was like, if I want to sit, I just... And there are some really neat spring-balanced ones where you kind of click and they move effortlessly up and down. I was trying to find one when I bought this because my wife, one of the body workers she goes to, he had one and it was great. And he showed it to me. I could not find the brand to buy it. So you can get motor-free ones that are less expensive as well. And the best thing is Ergotron and other companies make these wonderful adapters. They're like risers that unfold. So you order them, they're flat, and then you can kind of crank them or lock them into different positions and put a keyboard and a screen or a laptop on them and get a standing desk at a table or a desk you own. I think Ergotron is the company. I know there's multiple companies that make like a standing desk you like screw into the wall and you can fold up. So you unfold it, you put your stuff there. The monitor is mounted to the wall with like a Visa mount or whatever you do, but it doesn't take up extra space. So if you have really tight space and you own the house, you're allowed to drill into a wall, you can minimize space and have that office during the day, then fold it up at night too. And those are also useful, by the way, for there are sitting desk versions of those too, but it's particularly nice where if you're standing and you don't need the same kind of surface, then you can make that. It's a lot of options. They're not $1,000. Many of them are very inexpensive. Some are in the hundreds of dollars, but there's a happy medium. I worry a little that I created a list of like, well, here's $2,000 you should spend into the midst of economic uncertainty. And really, most of the things in the book are you can repurpose what you have or adjust things, or they're very inexpensive. But if you have a little budget or you really need to reform a space or change something, you can kind of, ratchet your way up from there. But I don't want to advise on a temporary basis someone goes out and spends a pile of money, and that's a stretch for anybody in the best of times. So really try to make sure that there's advice in the book that's essentially like take a thing you have and do a thing with it without buying anything new.
And I would add to that, or just make a point that you sort of made. The standing desks and the adjustable, the motorized ones are great because you can do this and you can do that. And you said you haven't adjusted it for 8 years. And I find myself with my car pretty much the same way. You can get the seat settings, but once you get the seat settings the way you want them, you never change them unless somebody messes with them, and then you got to find it again. But that's why I would encourage, think about the motorized desks, but also look at some of the hand cranks or like you said, the spring loaded, because you'll be able to adjust those and you're going to save a whole lot of money and basically going to get the same benefit, because once you do it, it's probably one of the last times you will do it until you stop needing it.
If you're investing in a shared solution, it's an interesting idea though too, is I didn't cover this in the book because it's kind of about like you're the one person, you may have other people around you. Excuse me, but some people are in a situation where they are not using a desk or space at the same time as their partner or roommate or whatever. They may be actually like, splitting childcare time, let's say. So one person is working 3 days a week and the other 2. In that case, if you're kind of setting up and taking down, or you have an external monitor you share, you're putting your laptop in and out, a standing desk or any kind of adjustable desk that's meant for sitting. It could be just a sitting desk or just a whatever. As long as you can move it up and down, then it's great because 2 people can use it and adjust it. You've got one space, you can make better use of it. I think you can buy very fancy ones, which I'm not recommending, where they actually have a memory. You can have kind of an A and B setting and say, all right, it's time for Jill to work here. Now it's time for Jenny, and you hit a button to switch between them.
Yeah.
Too much for right now, though. Maybe anytime.
I'll have more with Glenn Fleishman, the author of Take Control of Working from Home Remotely, in the next edition of MacVoices. At that time, we'll talk more about video conferencing and audio conferencing, different efficiency techniques that you can use, and just some of Glenn's tips in general to keep yourself healthy and sane while you're working at home. So until the next time, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.